Welcome back to App Stories. Today's episode is brought to you by Memberful. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is Federico Vitici. Hey, Federico.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm having a good day. It's amazing to me that we are in October and it is hot outside here in North Carolina. This is this is the John is still amazed that he no longer lives in the cold Midwest.
I know.
And
yeah.
This time of year, the trees change colors even though it doesn't get cold. That was a revelation for me.
They can do that. Trees can do that, turns out.
They can. But usually I always thought it was because it was freezing cold in the north. But here that happens in the south too, even though it's not yet very cold. But enough of the weather, Federico. We have a really good topic today, I think. But before we get to that topic, I want to put a call out to our listeners for an app recommendation.
Oh, fun, because I also have a hardware recommendation. So we're both putting out requests. I like it.
Oh, good.
Okay.
All right. Well, let me start this off by asking I want an app that does great gradients. And the reason I want this, now you and I have talked about Shareshot, and it does a fantastic job with its gradients that it puts in the background of screenshots that it frames in hardware. And I like those so much that I would like something that's a lot like that app, but that doesn't do the screenshot part of it. I just want to make really nice gradients so I can put other stuff in front of it, whether it's maybe it's a video that I put together for our YouTube channel or for Reels or something. I just want to be able to create really nice gradients easily without having to become a gradient creation expert in Photoshop. I want something that has some very simple dials and controls that let me pick colors and pick, the way the gradient looks and that kind of stuff without having to really understand the underlying math or whatever it is that's happening. And the problem I'm having is that I go looking for these apps, and there are a lot of gradient apps on the App Store, but it's a little bit like looking for a wallpaper app. Not to maybe it's too soon to talk about wallpaper apps, but there are a lot of bad wallpaper apps out there. And Neil did a great story on Mac Stories not that long ago. I guess it's been a few months now, and found all kinds of great wallpaper apps, but it took a lot of work because there are a lot of them that are, junked up with ads, or the wallpapers are really bad or low resolution, or it hasn't been updated in forever. And I'm finding the same thing with these gradient apps. I have not found a really good one. And I'd like one that allows me to create gradients in kind of standard sizes, 1080p, or the size for a modern iPhone, or a 4K one, whatever it happens to be, but to do it easily, quickly, and they just look good.
Okay. I have a speaker-related request. I am looking for a small speaker that needs to be, I'm gonna run through my list of requirements. It needs to be battery powered. So I need to be able to take this thing and place it in different rooms of the house. It doesn't have to be too big. So a small to medium size portable speaker, something that I can lift to one hand and place it on my living room table. And it needs to support Spotify Tap. So Spotify Tap is a feature that, for example, my Meta Ray-Ban glasses have, where you press a button or you perform a gesture and something from your Spotify recommendations start playing, right? So for example, if I tap and hold on my Meta glasses, something that I was listening to will start playing, or something recommended will start playing. This is called Spotify Tap. And I know that there are speakers out there that support Spotify Tap. Likewise, this speaker needs to support Wi-Fi, because I want to have access to Spotify Connect, which is the feature that allows you to stream to the speaker from any other device that is running Spotify. So something small, battery powered, that supports Spotify Tap and Spotify Connect. I think there are some options from Bose or JBL, but I would love to know if any of our listeners are using a similar product.
I thought I had a recommendation for you until you said Spotify Tap, because the Sonos Move is what I use.
Oh, and I want to say, I don't want to buy a Sonos product. I should also, because I don't want to use the Sonos app. I don't need all the drama in my life.
Well, you don't need the Sonos app. Let me tell you, I bought the Sonos Move is like the first and last Sonos product that I bought. And I'm not planning on buying any more, but I don't use the Sonos app with it. I just use AirPlay. So, but I don't think it supports Spotify Tap, but it does have Wi-Fi, and it does have a big chunky battery in the base. So it lasts for a very, very long time.
All right. I'll think about it. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, lock screens, widgets, where do you want to start?
So I guess we're going to start with lock screens. And I want to preface this with, there's an episode of the podcast Home Screens coming out soon where I went through a lot of this with Lee for that show. And so I'm not going to spoil Home Screens since it's not out yet. I do want to talk more from my standpoint, I guess, about some of the approaches I've taken with the various parts of my phone, and then also answer any questions you have about some of the specific apps I'm using, I guess. All right. So when it comes to my lock screen, I've changed things up a little bit. I mean, one of the things, I guess it's an overarching approach that I'm taking to everything on my iPhone these days is quick entry, and to have quick entry of all sorts of things available all the time, everywhere. And for me on my lock screen, that means a quick note button and the lower left of my lock screen, which is replacing, I guess, the flashlight. I have thought about doing focus modes so that I would replace that with the flashlight in the evening once the sun goes down. Haven't tried that yet. Not sure it's really necessary. I don't use the flashlight a lot anyway. And then I also have a remind me faster button up in the top right under the time, because I want to be able to take jot down a reminder very quickly. But those are the things that I wanted to really highlight from my lock screen, is the two quick entry things. The rest of it are things like, the air quality, because I'm a big fan of the air quality, the weather with Mercury weather, and I'm testing out Halide on my lock screen because, you can swipe over to get to Apple's built-in camera. So I thought, why not put Halide on there and maybe try to become a fancy professional photographer all of a sudden.
Interesting. I don't use a lot of third-party widgets, I guess, on my lock screen, but I do have 2 for quick entry, because that is also something that I've tried to prioritize over the past few weeks. The bottom of my lock screen is pretty basic. I have the flashlight toggle still in the same spot, because I couldn't think of anything better to do with I couldn't think where to put the flashlight. Do you use it
very much though?
Oh yeah.
When you're walking the dogs at night, basically? Or?
Walking the dogs, or just when I'm wandering around the house at night, with my eGPU, or from
your
room
neighbors
to room.
Are probably like, what's that creepy guy doing?
Nobody can see me. Nobody can see me because the shutters are closed. So
okay.
Only Sylvia and the dogs can see me. Now Zelda gets a bit upset at the flashlight because it casts a shadow of objects on the walls, and she gets scared because she doesn't understand shadows. But yeah, I use the flashlight a lot. So the flashlight is still in the same spot for me. In the bottom right, though, I have put a control for a quick note, so that when I press it, I can create a new quick note directly from my lock screen. And I use quick notes a lot to save any kind of thought, any kind of idea, any kind of random stupid thing that pops into my brain. I save it with quick note and I process it later in the Notes app. So that's what I have in the bottom right.
Random stupid thoughts is worth pausing on, I think, Federico.
Okay.
Because I feel I have an overwhelming number of random stupid thoughts pop into my brain all day long.
Right.
And I have found that Quick Notes is really indispensable for collecting them all and letting you go back later and decide, was this really just a bad idea, or is this actually something that might be worth doing down the road?
Am I a genius or not?
Well, because sometimes there have been times when I have put those random dumb thoughts, instead of in Quick Notes, I've put them in a text message from you to you, and I'll get back to you. That's a random dumb thought, John. That's not what you say. You're far too polite, too much of a gentleman for that. But I do sometimes regret some of the ideas that I share before I've actually thought them through. And Quick Notes helps me avoid doing that.
Yeah, Quick Note is great for just Exactly this sort of thing, like saving everything that comes to mind and then worrying about its quality later. It's great for
Right.
that. Underneath the clock, I have another quick entry control or widget. This is a Remind Me Faster widget. It's a big old plus button. It's just that. It's a plus button that when I press it, it unlocks the phone and it opens Remind Me Faster in quick entry mode so that I can start typing out a reminder as quickly as possible. Now, I would do it if I could with Apple Intelligence and type to Siri, but I'm based in Italy, so I cannot access the new type to Siri interface because that got collected under the umbrella of Apple Intelligence. So I don't have access to the new type to Siri UI. But if I could, I would use that. I would use type to Siri, create a little text expansion shortcut, right? Where I could, for example, assign the shortcut RRR, so tapping the letter R 3 times to expand into Remind Me To, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would type that into Siri, but I cannot because once again, the DMA, Apple Intelligence, for whatever reason, I cannot use it.
Yeah, the thing about Apple Intelligence and the DMA that strikes me as odd is that with 18.0, we got summaries of web pages for everybody. And that is an AI feature. That's Apple's using Applebot and generative AI to create summaries of web pages. Somehow that didn't fall under the umbrella of Apple Intelligence. And so you can get that in the EU and get it here. I don't really, it seems odd to me that Apple is holding back Apple Intelligence, but Apple Intelligence really isn't anything other than a marketing term. It's the AI things and the machine learning things that Apple has decided to define as Apple Intelligence. There are other things going on your phone that are machine learning and AI that aren't called that, and they haven't been withheld from the EU, which I just find it kind of fascinating and weird.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm using Remind Me Faster. That allows me to quickly type out a reminder in the Remind Me Faster app, and it's great. And I guess while we're on the same topic, right next to it, I also have a medium-sized reminders widget that I use all the time to check off a reminder from my lock screen. That's what I do. So
I don't do that because I have too many reminders, so it's never very relevant, the ones that are on the top of that list.
Are you saying that I get nothing done compared to you?
No, I'm just saying that you have discipline and you limit your number of things you
so it was a compliment. Well, then
it's a compliment. You realize that you can only get so many things done in a day. I try to accomplish twice as much as I know I can get done in a day.
That is something that you gotta fix.
I know. I work at it. I struggle, but I work at
it. What else you got on your lock screen?
The struggle's real, man.
Yeah, no. I believe you.
So that's about it. I mean, as I said, I've got Mercury Weather. I just like Mercury Weather's really, really simple, large lock screen widget because it tells me the current temperature, the high and low, feels like, and the cloud conditions, like the precipitation conditions, all in one spot in just 3 clear lines of text. So I've got that on there next to a Paku widget, which just shows the current air quality.
Our friend Paku. Okay.
Yes, it's back. It's 35 right here in North Carolina at the moment. So 35 is actually pretty good.
What do you have set at the bottom of the lock screen again?
I have the Quick Note and Halide.
Okay. And do you have anything above the clock?
I do not currently. Not with this lock screen. I have a bunch of lock screens, but I've kind of gotten away from using the ones above the clock.
Yeah, me too, because I just have the basic date, I guess, just to see what day it is. And I got to say,
same.
Most of these widgets, their use is kind of replaced by the Apple Watch in most circumstances for me. Like if I gotta tell the time or tell the date, I just glance at my Apple Watch.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's very true. There's a lot of redundancy across these various systems, and it's nice to have these things there. But I can't say that I spend a lot of time looking at my lock screen to see what the weather is
Okay.
or the air quality. It is handy if my phone's just sitting there and I think of something that I can get into quick note really fast without having to unlock the phone or do the remind me faster. But beyond those things, the other ones I don't feel like I'm looking at all that often.
Mm.
This episode of App Stories is brought to you by Memberful. Memberful is best-in-class membership software used by the web's biggest creators, publishers, and media companies. Memberful includes a plugin that integrates effortlessly with WordPress, allowing you to create fully functional membership websites for your client's first business. This is exactly what we did with Club Mac Stories way back in 2015. It's been nearly a decade now that we've been using Memberful, and we've stuck with it for that long time because it's so easy to use, and it's really grown and evolved with us, allowing us to add features to the club that maybe we didn't have back in 2015, but we can do today as we grow the business. Memberful also has content protection. You can protect premium content behind a paywall, enabling your clients to monetize exclusive blog posts, videos, and downloadable resources. Memberful also features customizable and flexible membership levels, including recurring subscriptions, one-time payments, and more. And it has built-in payment processing. Secure payments are handled via Stripe, making checkout a breeze for customers and ensuring that your clients get paid on time every time. It's also a white label solution. You can customize Memberful to match your client's branding, which is what we do with the club for Mac Stories too, ensuring a seamless and professional user experience. Plus, Memberful is scalable. Whether your clients are just starting out or managing thousands of members, Memberful scales effortlessly to handle growth. And you can save time and effort because Memberful's robust APIs and webhooks make extending functionality a breeze without needing complex custom code. And you're not going to have to change the other services you use to integrate with Memberful either, because it works with platforms you use today, things like MailChimp for email newsletters, Discord for community building, giving your clients more ways to engage with your audience. They also offer automated email communication. That lets you keep your members informed with automated emails, welcoming them to your membership, sending payment receipts, and other things like updates. Plus, your client will get detailed analytics to track the success of their membership offerings with built-in analytics, providing insights to membership engagement, revenue, and a bunch more. To learn more and sign up today, go to memberful.com/appstories. That's memberful.com/appstories, so they know you heard about them from us. That's memberful.com/appstories. Our thanks to Memberful for their support of the show.
All right. I feel like you have a much more fascinating control center setup than mine, but I think I've also realized what I want to do with control center over the next few days, but I'll let you go first because my idea is kind of weird.
All right. Well, first off, I realized after playing with this over the summer that I wanted to limit the number of pages I had.
Okay.
At times I've had 3 or 4. Seemed like too much. I never really got to the 3rd or 4th one. So I've condensed it down to 2, and I'm using primarily small widgets on the control center pages. And it's a similar approach to what I'm doing on the lock screen in that I have created several Remind Me Faster widgets that are tied to separate lists in my reminders. And I've got one, if you kind of look on the screen and you're midway down on the far left, because I'm left-handed, and I want these things to be easily accessible with my thumb. I've got a little house, which is my home list for personal stuff. I've got an inbox for the reminders inbox. I've got a book, which is Mac Stories, because you read Mac Stories.
Right, sure.
I have a plus because we have a plus version of Club Mac Stories. I was really stretching here, Federico, because there aren't that many icons.
No, I love it. I love the creativity. Okay.
And then I've got the speech bubbles, which are the podcasts list.
Right.
So I've got all those, and those aren't all of the lists I have in reminders. I have a few more, but these are the ones that I use probably the most throughout the day. So that's why I picked those. right in the center, I have the kind of controls I use fairly frequently, the brightness and the volume, as well as a focus mode. And I'm not a big focus mode user, but I have found one of the few Apple Intelligence things that I find useful is the reduce interruptions focus mode, because it's a lot like do not disturb. I'd say it's like 90% do not disturb and 10% let something in that's important. And it seems to be doing a pretty good job of that. Maybe it's because I'm so good at ignoring my notifications that it just acts as a do not disturb, and I'd be just as happy with it if I just use do not disturb instead. But so far, so good with it. What else do I have here? I have kind of along the quick entry theme, beneath those remind me faster widgets, I have quick note again, and then I have voice memos. Now, and voice memos is kind of aspirational because that's not an app I've ever really used.
Voice memos. Okay.
Yeah, but here's the thing. With iOS 18, you get those sweet transcriptions. So my thought is, if I'm walking down the street and I think of something, I can just leave myself a voice memo and then go back in later and copy the text and drop it into a note or a task or whatever it is. So I want to try to see if that, whether that's useful and a habit that I can get into or not. And if not, then maybe I'll drop this one. But then I've also got just like the home app, because I go in and out of the home app all day long for all various things. And I do have a second control center page with just HomeKit stuff, but it's not everything. So I like to have the home app available too. What else? The rest of the stuff is pretty standard stuff because it's like now playing. I do have a Carrot weather one in here that I think Carrot's the only weather app that I use that has a control center widget. I don't think Mercury does yet. And so I go into Carrot every so often just to check the weather from the control center. And to some degree, I maybe was stretching a little bit with all these little widgets to find things that I use that would be useful to me. But I also have things like personal hotspot, because I do use that when I'm away from home for either my Mac laptop or for, my iPad, and other standard stuff like light and dark mode and timers and alarms, that sort of thing.
Interesting. I'm really interested by the voice memos addition. That is an interesting one, especially because of transcriptions.
Yeah, I feel like one of the things about control center widgets is despite having a lot of apps on my phone, I don't have that many that are that interesting because they're very limited in what the developers can do. I mean, they're really just toggles in most cases, or they're entry points into a particular part of an app. And that one struck me as, especially with the changes to the app this year, as one that I might actually get some use out of, especially if I could surface it so I didn't have to go looking for the voice memos app, which is somewhere in my app library under V, obviously. But yeah, that's what I did.
Right. Okay. So is that it for your control center?
Well, that's it for my main page. The other page I'll just cover, I guess, quickly. It's HomeKit stuff. At the very top are two scenes. One is what I call Workday, which is just the light setup I like for my normal day working in my office. Mm-hmm. And the other one is called White Light, where the lighting is tuned so I look extra good on YouTube.
Nice.
And so that changes things around to avoid some reflections in the room and some other things. Then I have a couple from our kitchen that are just there because those lights get turned on and off a lot during the day. And everything else is either lighting in my office or outlets, electrical outlets in my office for turning on and off various things, especially chargers, because I have a Miros power strip,
right?
And every one of those little outlets is individually accessible via HomeKit, and so I can define those separately, name them, and then turn on things like chargers throughout the day as I need them, because a lot of times that stuff generates heat. And one thing, my office can get very hot sometimes, both because of the warm climate, but also because the sun, I'm facing south, so the sun is always beating into my windows in the afternoon, and I just don't need any extra heat. So I turn those things off and save a little electricity in the process.
Nice. Okay. All right. Well, so my idea is kind of weird.
Okay, I want to hear this. I like weird ideas.
Okay, so I'm obviously struggling with all this freedom at my disposal now, right? All these controls, all these things that I can do. Historically, I'm not a fan of like splitting functionality across multiple pages. Like that's why I have a single home screen, for example, on my iPhone and iPad. But with the new control center, I've always been sort of a fan of multiple pages. And especially now in iOS 18, I think navigating to secondary pages is as good as it's ever been, right? You can just keep swiping and you go into a sub page, and that's fun. But since I assigned opening control center in iOS 18.1 to the action button, so now I can press the action button to toggle control center. So my hand is gripping the phone differently when I'm opening control center, and my thumb is gravitating more than used to be before toward the bottom of the screen. So what I want to do is I want to recreate the old iOS 9, iOS 10 design of control center as a card that pops up from the bottom of the display, but in iOS 18. Like I want to I want to have a control center main page that is just half the page with all the controls at the bottom, and in a way that it looks kind of like the iOS 10 control center used to look. So like just the essentials, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, like some radio controls at the top, now playing, and then some other shortcuts at the bottom. But just like filling basically half of the page in a way that it's not too overwhelming, that I can keep using secondary pages for all the other controls I want to have, like HomeKit, for example, but just have a single page that slides, quote unquote, slides up from the bottom of the screen like it used to, and all the controls are within easy reach from the bottom part of the phone. That's my idea.
All right, that's a good idea. I like it. I mean, what I've been doing is kind of gravitating the things I think I'll use most to the left side, because I tend to hold my phone in my left hand because I'm left-handed, and because the action button's up there, and I'm doing the same thing you are with the the shortcut to open up control center. So I could see doing it that way too. That's a good idea, especially if maybe you don't have a full complement of widgets that you want to necessarily use compared to.
Yeah.
I mean, I did find myself putting some filler ones into my setup a little bit on the first page.
Obviously, as I was looking for example of the old control center, I stumbled upon an old image of mine, a comparison of control center from iOS 7 to 8, 9, and 10. And so that would be the idea, right? Some basic toggles at the top. The only problem is that control center used to have a horizontal slider for brightness and volume. Now those are vertical sliders. You cannot have a horizontal slider anymore. So that will be tricky to recreate, but I could potentially put two sliders and then a compact now playing widget in between them. I could do something like that and sort of recreate. And then there was what? AirPlay, AirDrop, flashlight, timer, calculator, camera. I'm going to swap those out for something else because I probably just need a timer. The calculator. I don't need the calculator. I'm going to put some other controls, like, for example, my Quick Note control. I could also put in Control Center. I already have a Remind Me Faster control for adding reminders to our shared family list with Sylvia and I that we share in reminders. And
I should probably add my grocery list now that I think of it. I use Siri a lot for that, but it would be handy because there's always something you're cooking and you think of something that you need, and it's always good to jot it down as soon as you realize you're missing it.
Yeah, but basically what I'm thinking of is first a main page, just half of it with just the essentials. Second page with just HomeKit controls, a combination of recommendations, specific controls manually selected by me, and a single button that reopens the standalone home app. And then a third page with everything else. So that would be like cellular, Shazam, Actually, I could probably put Shazam on the first page. But like all the others, screen recording, like the things that I use occasionally, but not every single time I use when I open Control Center.
Yeah. Air Scrabble has a control that you can use, which is actually, if you're into Scrabbling with Air Scrabble, that's a good way to do it, I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking though. Like, and I'm actually gonna send you a mock-up of what, like, it's unfinished, but like the idea would be that I'm just going to delete some of these non-essential controls, right? And so I would have, and my God, it's so bad to rearrange Control Center.
I know. This is the thing that I wanted to close out the show talking about because of the thread that you posted the other day. I do wonder are there any apps that are offering like clear Control Center widgets that can help you force those things down the page? I mean, I know you could put them wherever you want, but I wonder if it would be easier to arrange things if you had like placeholder transparent control widgets.
I don't think it's possible. And
I don't think it is either because of the way they're designed, you would still get circles probably with, it would look like you would just have blank circles or something like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I think I was able to do it. So I'm going to send you an image that we can use for.
Yeah, we should send me your lock screen too, so we can go over have that in the show notes too.
Yeah, if you give me just 1 second, I will send you a screenshot because I was able to do it. So this is half the page. And it's kind of similar to what it used to look like. So this is my idea. And you will see that I'm connected to Bluetooth because my volume is always showing the Bluetooth icon because I'm wearing the Meta glasses. So that's why. So you should have the screenshot. It's
coming through right now. Yeah, what's going on with? Oh, I see what you're doing here. Yeah, this is good. I like this. I like this a lot. This is pretty cool. Are those lists at the bottom? Like, are those first two things like reminders lists? The dog paw and the star.
The dog paw is a reminders list. The star is the Forever Notes system. It's a shortcut to reopen my home note in Apple Notes. Yeah,
nice. We have a post on Mac Stories about that. It's something that I need to spend some time and see how I'm going to incorporate it myself because I think it's a nice. It reminds me of a lot of systems I've seen on Obsidian, but I think it benefits from being a little more constrained on notes and maybe a little simpler in a lot of ways. The thing that I wanted to close on this week, Federico, is the video that you posted, I think only on Threads. Maybe it was on Mastodon too.
No, it was on Threads.
Threads where you were trying to reposition icons because you wanted to leave some blank spaces on your home screen. And you're frustrated because you're having all kinds of trouble moving things around to where they were supposed to go. And it's very hard to describe what is going on in that video other than to say every time you try to move an icon to a blank space,
something else moves.
Yes, a different icon moves. And it's not, to me, it doesn't look predictable. It doesn't seem to be a pattern. There must be some kind of pattern or some kind of rule that's being applied, but it looks very random when you do it. And it's like, well, this time he did it and this one moved, and this time he did it and this other one moved. It's really frustrating. I don't know how it is that this many years into the iPhone, that is still a problem. Someone I know asked you on Threads whether it was easier with iPhone mirroring, and I'm here to tell you, it is not. It is the same thing, but with a mouse or a trackpad. It's no better at all.
Oh well.
Oh well. Well, maybe that's a little something for next year. That's a little something to throw on the to-do list for the developers at Apple. All right, Federico, do you got anything else for me?
I think that's it.
All right, I think that's good. All right, well, thanks everybody for listening to this week's episode of App Stories, and thanks again to Memberful for supporting the show. We'll be back next week with another episode. In the meantime, you can find us at macstories.net. We are also on social media. On Mastodon, you just go to vitici.macstories.net and johnvorhees.macstories.net to follow us there. And we're on Threads and Instagram, where Federico is posting those fun videos of moving his icons around in wiggle mode. He is at Vitici on both. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees on both. JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.